I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I got to this point as a journalist. And I think it's important to know that we're all shaped by our personal history in ways that we don't even understand. My grandfather was a journalist. He was the Washington correspondent for the Louisville Courier-Journal. But he quit journalism to make money in PR for 20th Century Fox, which he hated. But one of the things he did before the war, he started this group called Freedom Fighters to try to push the country into war because he was so appalled by what was going on in Nazi Germany. And I did not know until much later in life that that was a pretty gutsy thing to do because of the prevailing isolationism of this country at the time. Well, his daughter, my mother, was also a journalist. And right after college, she got married. My father went into the Army for World War II. And she got this very glamorous job at a Washington news service. So you can imagine this young, beautiful woman in Washington doing all this really great stuff. But she didn't care about any of the glamour. She didn't care about any of that stuff. But one of the best stories that she told me was she went to a press conference where they were going to unveil a plane. And she couldn't get anywhere close to the general. And she thought, oh, screw this. And so she went into a hangar to have a cigarette. And there were a bunch of soldiers back from the war. So she said, well, have any of you dropped any atomic bombs lately? And this guy said, well, I was the bombardier on Nagasaki. So she took him home to her mother's house and wrote stories about him for 4 days before he'd even been debriefed by the military. And her editor said, I'd rather have a lucky reporter than a smart one any day. And my mother said, well, you got lucky and smart.